Welcome back, everybody, to CNC Talks. As always, I'm your host, Cody.
And I'm Noah. Oh my God. We haven't done this in a while, so it's fine.
So we're coming back from a big break for us. Obviously, for you guys, we have not stopped posting. So basically, we take a winter break and spend time with our families, and, you know, now we're getting back into it. So we are going to be talking today about homebrew versus adventure books. Just the pros and cons of each, what we think, our opinions. Please let us know in the comments what you think. So, do you want to go ahead and start it off?
I can start off with some history.
Okay, go for it.
So, a bit history about adventure books and for homebrew. Adventure books were always a thing ever since first edition. But from first to second edition, they were called modules. They were just shorter adventures, kind of like one-shots where you only gained 2, 3 or so levels that could range from like 5th to 7th, 1st to 3rd, 11th through 13th, whatever. Adventure books are kind of kits or mini stories that have backstory, maps, and objectives for the PCs to do. Pre-made stories that the DM can either fully do or that you can just take parts and bits out of. Homebrew are homemade worlds, items, classes, settings, and etc. that are made by an individual that aren't part of a published book or setting.
Much like our Vreeling campaign.
Exactly. There are 2 eras that homebrew went through. First was the TSR era, which was between 1974 and 1997. This is the original game wanted the DM to create everything. It was just the rules, and then everything else was up to the DM. Now, the dreaded devil of this fucking era, Wizards of the Coast, from 3rd edition to the beginning of 5th edition, there was an open gaming license, which allowed pretty much anyone to create anything, free of charge, free of doing whatever they want, and you were able to sell whatever from your mind. Still can't be an already published setting from them. But, thankfully, in 2006, February 4th, which was just yesterday.
Wait, what was... Say that
2006, again? February 4th, is when D&D Wiki...
So, yesterday in 2006.
Yes.
I was like, wait a minute, what? I was like, hold up.
D&D Wiki was founded, where it created a space where people could openly publish their own homebrew, and anyone was able to use it. That's just a short history. There you go.
We should also mention, God, I can't talk today. There was recently an issue with the OGL, and it was a long
just a month.
Yeah, it was a long month of just people freaking out, and then they announced, I forget when they announced, I was trying to look for it. I got sent a message. Oh, it's right here. January 27th, they sent a message that said they are leaving OGL 1.0A in place as is untouched. And then they're also making the entire SRD 5.1 available under a Creative Commons license,
which is amazing.
Yeah. I'm not really sure what the SRD is. I didn't get a chance to look at that.
It's pretty much Creative Commons is pretty much open to everyone. No one can take it, no one can capture it and make it a lawsuit anymore. It is open. So even if you try and use some of the items from Wizards of the Coast, they can't really do anything because it's in Creative Commons. Some of the items are still kind of in their jurisdiction.
Okay.
It just kind of makes it easier.
So it kind of protects content creators.
Yes.
Where maybe in the future it'll limit them, but it can't hurt them for what they've already done.
Yes.
Is that what it means? Okay. I get that. Okay. That's pretty nice.
Yes.
So yeah, there was enough content on the OGL. That's why we didn't do a episode on it. They explained it perfectly. You know, shout out to what's his name,
D&D Shorts.
D&D Shorts. That's it. Yeah. D&D Shorts. He explained everything very well. He was a little aggressive, but understandable whenever it's your livelihood. So, what do you think? What is your pros for adventure books?
Okay.
I'm curious.
I try to be as neutral as possible.
Yeah, Noah hates adventure books.
Yes, I do.
Just throwing that out there.
It does not matter if it's from Wizards of the Coast, Cobalt Press, Paizo. It does not matter. I am not a huge fan of adventure books. But they're a quick game. You don't have to worry about multiple sessions. You could just play once and then never touch it again.
The other thing is, too, is you could not play it once. You can always continue it, too.
Which
So,
is
that's
awesome,
dope.
but scheduling could be a fucking problem.
Yeah, we already deal with that enough.
You won't have to stress out over creating a gigantic world or intricate one-shot encounters and all that stuff. It's already there for you to just read and just play.
To add to that, that's pretty much what I have it. I have it summed up as like the info is already prepared for you. So like creatures, characters, all that stuff. Adventure books like can help aspiring DMs and players to like learn the ropes and not cause a ton of confusion with like the rules. And even though there's not very many rules to D&D, there's still some that like are like common knowledge. Like if you don't have wings and you don't have spells, you don't fly. Like, you know what I mean? If you character, you can't just be like, I want to fly now, and you're going to fly. Obviously, that's up to the DM, but that's typically something that it's like, hey, that doesn't make sense. The other thing I had is you can always add to, like if you get comfortable, you can take a book, and if you're like, I don't really like this part, you just change it. Yeah. They're not set in stone. We had that. I think I've talked about it on the podcast before. My first DMing, or my first D&D experience, or maybe it was my second one. I think it was the second one. I was playing with one of our friends, Shane, and he was talking about whenever he had a past session, he was running Mines of Fendelver. And he got to the city, and they found out the big secret of the city, and all the party members just noped out. And he's like, all right. And he just had to figure it out from there. Like, just completely, off the wall. Because people did not want to deal with the surprise. So I don't want to give it up in case there's people that are new that are planning on choosing Lost Mines of Fendelver as like a short play. Yeah, it's always cool because that's one of the best things about D&D, and that's why we obviously love the game and we speak so highly of it, is because it's so malleable and it's very, I guess, flexible. Like, I mean, it's the same fucking word basically, but like, I just... it's so cool because there's never-ending possibilities.
Mm-hmm. Depending on the book or kit, there are already pre-made characters, which are good for beginners. In my opinion, not really my cup of tea.
Yeah, I fucking hate pre-made characters.
Yeah.
Even that one shot we did with pre-made characters, I was like, it wasn't that big of a deal, but it's just, it's harder to, it's harder to get into something that is not your own.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. But there are good things about it. You don't have to go through the book and search for everything. You don't have to take hours to create a character if you're completely new. It's just there for you.
Yeah, which I know can be a big turn away for people too, is because a lot of things, if it gets too complicated, you're going to give it up.
Yeah.
Like, that's what a lot of people, you think about how many people try to learn to play guitar, learn to do whatever, and they're just like, I'm just not getting it. Like, I just don't understand it. And they say, heck with it. And then they're just gone. When really it's like, hey, it doesn't need to be that complicated.
I also have, you don't have to search for specific items or potions or NPCs. You don't have to create them. It's all in the book for you as well. You don't have to search the Dungeon Master Guide or Vault of Magic and all these other places to find a magic item that won't break the book, but will also have your players have fun.
Yeah, make it go from dreadful to challenging.
Yeah. That's all I got. That's all I could think of last night.
That's one of those things. I pretty much have all the same stuff except just worded a little different. But the ending statement with the pros of the adventure books is, I'm just going to say, D&D is pretty much a game of overthinking whenever you're first starting. So, like, the adventure books help you take a step back, and they're just like, they give you enough info where you can do it, but also they're not like, you have to follow this to a T. So it kind of gives you that ability to get into it and start to understand the mechanics without all the frustration. Obviously, us being more seasoned players, it's
Not for
great.
us.
Yeah. We can pull information from source books and stuff, but I don't want to, or from adventure books and stuff, but I don't want to
Use it.
I don't want to sit down and go word for word by it.
Well, we did try it twice
Mm-hmm.
for Curse of Strahd, and then
That
we
was
also
miserable.
used the Candlelight. No. Candle Keep or whatever.
Candlelight Keep.
Yeah.
That's what I used that in my other campaign, the one that just ended a couple months ago. That was where we ended up. So it was kind of weird. He combined like 4 different books. It was really cool.
All right. Pros of homebrew, or we're going to cons of adventure?
Let's just stick with adventure books. Let's do cons of
All right.
adventure books.
You want to go?
So I think the cons of adventure books are just like, my number one thing is their price for what is in them. Like, you're paying for the quality of the actual like hardcover, nice, colorful pages. Like, it's pretty, like, I think it's pretty well put together, obviously, but like, you are paying for basically it to say like D&D at the top, like, for the branding. It's not really a shot at Wizards, but at the same time, it's like, find some more creative content. There's people all over the world that, obviously not bringing the OGL discussion into it, but like, they have a lot of really good ideas and content. There's no reason Wizards can't do the same. Just step outside of the box a little. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, hey, you know, when you can get a Kickstarter and you can have content that is incredibly unique compared to most other adventure books. That's insane. Dylan just bought the Dark Souls adventure book, and I got to see it yesterday for the first time. Holy smokes. It is probably an extra like half an inch thicker than most of the other adventure books, and there is in-depth everything, like lore. It's insane. He got like a quarter of the way through reading it so far. It looks awesome. And I'm like, man, if Wizards would just like, I don't know how their company's set up, but it's like, if they would just have like, maybe add a couple people to the creative team, or, you know, talk to your I guess, customers, like talk to them, figure out what they want, like, and listen to them. Mm-hmm. It's just, I don't know. A lot of things have been iffy with the adventure books, and, you know, the, what do you call it? Even like Magic the Gathering. It's, yep. There's a reason I was sold out of Magic. I'm just over it. But it's one of those things. It's like, hey, if you don't have a passion for it anymore, sell the company. If not, you have no excuse to not come up with better stuff.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest complaint. It's like the price versus quality. It's just not there.
Yeah, I think ever since Strahd, any adventure book has gone downhill.
All I can think of is all the YouTubers that are like, they haven't fucking had anything since 1997 that was worth shit. And I was like, oh my God. Which I don't know if that's how they felt, or if that was just because of the OGL scare. So they were like all just pissed.
Maybe.
So I was just like, okay. Like, I obviously didn't play back then, so I can't speak for that. But I was like, holy crap, people were freaking out. I was like, okay.
Yeah. What else?
I think that... So... I think the lack, I don't know, that's where Homebrew is nice, because like, I feel like the lack of character building in books is what drives me insane with like you look at all these homebrews of like different types of characters and classes and all this stuff. Like, they literally sit there and they give you some races and stuff, and then maybe some new subclasses or whatever. I think, as far as their like character selection, I think adventure books and source books, as far as their like, I don't want to say villain, what's the like the, I guess, like their monsters and the creatures and stuff, I think that is a vast pool that they have done very well with. All the different options you have for, you know, all kinds of creatures and enemies to fight and stuff like that. But I really think they should do another one where it's like the evil characters and stuff. I think they should try and push that a little more, where your character can be like a Kenku, you know, whatever. What was that? I can't think of what the source book was for that.
Oh, Volo's Guide to
Yeah,
Monsters.
yeah. Is that where you can play as like the lizard folk?
Where you're
and-
able
okay.
to finally be other than human.
Yeah, like humanoid, like
Yes.
elf or whatever. I think the furthest you could get away from that before then was what? A freaking
Tiefling or half-orc.
I was gonna say, yeah, tiefling or orc, but I think, like I said, they're getting there, but I just wish they would push. I kind of wish they would push more source material than adventure material.
I saw that I think within the last year or two, they pushed out 14 or so new books with only 7 class stuff.
Mm-hmm.
With the year prior to that, they only released 4 or 5, and they gave us 9 to 12 class stuff. So they're just adding more books, but not adding on to the whole.
Like more material.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what drives me nuts. I'm like,
Give me something, man.
yeah, come on. Like we're already. I don't remember what I was saying. So just fucking cut this out and then replace it with whatever. Stop at what you said last when you're editing.
Fuck.
Put that in the bloopers. That's fine. Fuck them. Oh,
God damn it.
it's good to be back, baby.
In my opinion, I hate that there's no free reign. You have to follow the book, because if you don't, it's not an adventure book really anymore.
Yeah, it's not worth the money. If you're gonna make your own adventure, just make your own fucking adventure. Like what?
Yes.
Like what? And the problem is you don't have control with that either.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said with that example with Shane, if they decide to leave, what are you gonna do? Stop them?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? That's not really D&D anymore. I mean, you could probably make some excuse up, like they encounter something that makes them turn around or whatever. You know, that's still where it's like it kind of sucks to like force them into situations.
Yeah, that was one of my other cons. Forced railroading.
Yeah.
I hate it. I don't think that you should make people do certain things, because it kind of just makes the world a lot.
Yeah, unless it fits with the story.
Unless it fits, yes.
Yeah. Like that Halloween one shot I did where you guys walked out of the town and then appeared on the other side of the town.
Yeah.
And you guys were like, wait, what the fuck
But that's
is happening?
more understandable that it's something magically based.
Yeah.
Not, all right, we're in this world, big fucking Tarrasque. Nah, I'm out. And I'm like, you start going into the woods and you're right next to the Tarrasque. Have fun. Like, no. Don't.
Yeah. Just be like, oh, you have, there's something that's compelling you not to leave. And it's like, yeah, no. It's not. I can tell you. It's my character. I can tell you there's nothing compelling me. Fuck that.
I tried to do an adventure book, and I thought that all of the small little blurbs or descriptive slots, it was all just so confusing.
Yeah.
It says that it's very easy to follow because it's like A1, A2, A3, B2, BC, whatever the fuck. But that does not make any goddamn sense.
I feel like you have to like not prepare the material, but you have to like read through it and bookmark stuff, and if you want it to go smoothly. And that's where I agree with you on that.
That's fucking boring.
I know, it sucks. Like, it's different when you can prep your own material.
Yes.
But like when you're sitting there and you're like, okay, well, it's funny because you sit there and I remember I did an adventure book one time. I can't remember what it was. It might have been Lost Mines, actually. I already knew what was going to happen, so I ran it for other people, I think, like a small group of people. And I was like sitting there and I'm like flipping through and I'm like, okay. I read through the whole thing, got it down. I'm like, okay, like I got this down. And then literally every circumstance that they planned for, like, if they go this way, this happens. If they go this way, none of them happened. And I had to still make it up. So it was like, why the fuck did I have this? Like, why? What's the point?
Yeah, that's another con, that even after you buy the book and you're doing the story, the DM has to change a lot.
Yeah.
Because some of the other D&D adventure books, a lot of plot holes, a lot of things just don't fucking mix. A lot of quests or adventures don't make sense in the story. The DM has to kind of use their own mind to keep the story going.
Yeah, I think they should focus more on like... So, D&D Beyond, is that owned by Wizards?
Sadly, yes.
Okay, so I think they should focus more on D&D Beyond and making that like their main thing, and then focus on source books and stuff like that. And then I feel like they wouldn't have to sit there and be like, I don't get why our adventure books aren't doing shit. Like, as far as like sales and how good they are and stuff. I mean, they're a freaking massive company.
Yeah.
So it's like, why don't you keep current? And it's like, everything's digital now. So like D&D Beyond is like an awesome app, especially for beginners, because like if you can navigate through the website and you get used to it, it's easy to use. So like, why wouldn't you focus on something like that? Or like maybe put out 1 or 2 adventure books a year and then focus on like source material, accessories. I always thought about like, what if they did like they could focus more on like the social aspect. They could do more things to help out
Role playing.
Like, well, yeah, role playing. They could do like literally put out like source material for like understanding role playing and helping like podcasts and stuff, like newer podcasts and stuff like that, like partnering with people. And I'm sure they could find a way to make money off that somehow. D&D is such a huge platform everywhere. It's like you can help people without being greedy and still make money off of it. And then, I don't know, if they could do it without being greedy, they could partner with a lot of these Kickstarter people and blast their Kickstarter out there so everybody sees it.
Mm-hmm.
And they could be like, hey, I want to make like a small amount of profit off of it. Because guess what? They're not making anything off of that. But like if you sit there and go, hey, we'll take this and we'll market for you, but we want like a small cut of it. And they have to do a small cut. They can't sit there and be like, oh, we want like 20%. Oh, we want 15%.
Half.
Yeah, like don't do that. You're already a huge platform. Fucking post it on D&D Beyond. People will see it. People will go, that sounds like a cool Kickstarter, or hey, I'm not into that. And then it's simple. Like, you think of how much money these Kickstarters make. I'm like, if D&D Beyond, or if D&D like Wizards would just not be greedy about it and be like, hey, we're going to do this to help you, because the more you get help, the more people like learn about D&D and hear about it and stuff like that. Like anybody who doesn't do D&D and listens to like our podcast, Critical Role, Dimension 20, NADPod, like anything like that, that's more of a chance of it reaching more people and more of a chance of Wizards profiting off of it. So it's literally like they help us to help them. And that would build that camaraderie back up, where you wouldn't be like, hey, they tried to take out the OGL, so now you got like fucking hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of salty freaking people because you showed your true face. You showed how greedy you are.
Yeah.
How does that not make sense? How does it not make sense? I don't get it. And everybody's probably like, oh, there's business aspects to it and blah, 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 blah. Figure them the fuck out and then do it. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I don't get it.
You good?
A little heated, but yeah.
Okay. I was never really a fan of this. Like Candlekeep and Yawning Portal, they had multiple different quote-unquote campaigns, stories, modules, whatever, in one book. No, I'm okay. I would rather it be one story. Yes, there's side quests or whatever, but one main story that you follow. That's kind of it. That's all
I would have to check that out, honestly, because they might be good for one-shots, but we don't really run one-shots.
Yeah.
So I got to be dead honest with you. I have not looked at an adventure book since Lost Mine. Like, I looked at that, did it the first time, I was like, this is hell. Like, nothing is going correctly. The source in it was good, but I still had to, like, make up parts and stuff, and I was just like, well, I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and not deal with this anymore. I think I picked up and read one of the... Well, no, that would be a source book. It wouldn't be the same as an adventure book. I mean, they still have source material in it, but yeah, everything else I've looked at was like stuff from source books and stuff like that. So I don't even know what Candlelit Keep is.
I don't know either.
Like,
and I don't care.
Yeah.
Some of the books have an intro where you can't do anything. You just kind of have to watch the world burn in this area. And if you actually try and stop it, you die. There's no...
What?
Yeah. Storm King's Thunder.
Oh.
Or yeah.
Yeah,
That one is where you start in like a small town or small village. The sky turns dark. Giants are coming down, destroying this village and doing whatever. You're only level 1, so if you want to try and stop them, you can, but you're dead, and you just have to restart the game or do something else. So you kind of just have to watch this area destroy itself, burn, whatever, until you can be like, all right, that was fun. Now let's go do something. That's not even a part of the main story yet. Grinds my goddamn diggity gears.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Storm King's Thunder. That's what it was called. I couldn't think of it. Oh, I thought about looking at the Magic the Gathering source books, and I just decided not to.
Yeah, nah.
I wanted to, but the other thing I forgot we did try the Acquisitions Incorporated. I would like to actually sit down and try that again. Now that we're more versed at it, I have it upstairs, so. I would like to try maybe a one-shot with it. I've never messed with it, but...
We can do whatever.
Yeah.
Don't care. Back to some of the books or kits have pre-made characters. Not fun at all. Fucking boring. Hate it.
Oh, I apologize, by the way. It is actually Candlekeep Mysteries. It is not Candlelight Keep.
Who cares?
I was looking down through here, and I was like, oh, yeah.
They're coming out with a new one.
Real quick. What did you think of Spelljammers? You didn't like it?
Shit.
Okay, I figured.
Why?
I just saw it on here and I was like, oh wait. I was like, you did.
They didn't expand on any of like the actual space. They created monsters. They didn't expand on like the ship battling. They just said, here's a ship. Here's a couple things that it can do. Have fun. Good luck.
Oh.
A lot of the races are already broken. Like the flying monkey. You can jump and, anyway, you can jump and then float 5 or 10 feet. You can jump, float, fly 10 feet, and you can do that however many times that you want. Pretty much no fall damage, which is fine, but eh. And all in all, most of the books are hack and slash. There is one book that is like mainly role-playing that I kind of want to try, but I don't want to try because it probably also fucking sucks. They're all hack and slash. Does not matter. You go anywhere, you're fighting something, then you're being like, oh no, it's this way now. You have to go to the city.
So there's like very low role-playing.
Yes.
Is what you mean. Yeah.
Yes.
Or like you said, it was railroad. I think it all comes back to railroading.
Yes.
Like, really.
The worst thing to fucking do. Well, I wouldn't say the worst thing to fucking do, but it's up there.
All right. Do you have anything else for adventure books?
No.
I don't either.
All in all, out of 10, what would you rate adventure books?
Are we saying adventure and source books?
No, just adventure.
2 out of 10.
I would agree.
Okay. I was gonna say, I'm like you get a lot of good stuff that you can pull from them.
Yeah.
I think if you use the adventure books like source books, they're okay. They're just, like I said, they're more expensive.
Yeah.
They're just super expensive comparative to coming up with your own stuff. And that's another thing we should also mention for any listeners that do not do their own homebrew, and are kind of like nervous to get into it. There is so much resources on the internet to help you understand how to create your own homebrew. There's no reason to be like intimidated by it. Like there's so many sources. You said earlier, D&D Wiki, huge resource. That's what got me into homebrew. It's crazy.
A lot of broken stuff, but a lot of fun stuff that you can fix.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, like I said, source books I would obviously rate in a different class. But
source books are actually useful here.
Yeah. That's one of those things we were talking about adventure books, and I started talking about source books. And I'm like, that's different, though. Like, I can't, it's hard to compare them.
Whoa. I know the episode is amazing so far, but I'm going to do a quick sponsor. Open Arms Pharmacy. They sell amazing kind of freeze-dried candy and fruit, and they have their own line of soda, like Jesus Christ. I'm going to go quick so you can get back to this amazing episode. They sell freeze-dried honey buns, Skittles, Sour Patch Kids, gummy worms, their own soda. There's 5 different flavors: vanilla bean, black cherry, blue raspberry, Coke, and strawberry. They also sell freeze-dried pickles, and if you're in the Punxsutawney or Brookville area, you can come into the store, and they also have an array of different other kinds of candy, from old-fashioned Laffy Taffy to random different kinds of cotton candy containers with a massive amount of other types of candy. So you can still buy their stuff at Etsy.com at Open Arms Pharmacy. That's OPENARMS FARMACY. Thank you. Tell them that CNC sent you. Now, sorry to wait all that. Now, back into the episode.
All right. So I don't have a lot of experience with homebrew. I will still discuss it with you, obviously, and talk about my experiences with dealing with homebrewed stuff. But I'm going to let you mainly take this away.
Okay.
So, obviously, my pros of it is freedom. Like, that's the number one biggest thing. Freedom, creativity, challenge yourself, the basics of it. And then the cons would just can be very confusing for newer players.
Yeah.
Yeah. But go ahead, and you can go more in depth with it, and we'll discuss it.
Like you were saying, creativity. You can create your own world. You can create your own items, places, settings, classes, sub-races, whatever you want. There's no barrier for you to stop at. The wall that you stop at is where you are.
And we should mention that is for D&D. Oh my God, for players and DMs.
Yes,
like both. As long as your DM allows it, you have a lot more freedom for creativity.
You get to choose your own theme: dark, romantic, action-packed, etc. You choose your own theme. You're not forced to a certain theme, like in adventure books. You do what you want, and if something isn't going the right way that you want, change it. You don't have to stay in line.
Lack of railroading.
Nice. Yes.
Unless it's necessary, obviously. But
there's a certain stretch that you can do.
Yeah. A little bit of gray area with all this stuff that we're talking about, obviously. But
PCs are able to change and alter it however you want, and you are able to change it to their whim. That could be good, that could be bad in some ways. But in my opinion, I think it's great because you're not, once again, set in stone to fight this thing to get to here, to get to there.
Well, it goes back to limiting creativity.
Yeah.
I mean, you let people be more creative with stuff, they are going to fall in love. Like, I was not really big into D&D, and then we started playing, and the absolute level of freedom and creativity that I could display and I could make, like, come to fruition with my character literally drove me to love D&D more than I ever had before. I liked D&D for years, but I never really had a passion for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that changed once I started dealing with homebrew more rather than all these people running regular, campaigns. And a lot of the problem is there's a lot of people who sit there and go, I want to DM something, and their creativity sucks. I'm just going to be real with you. If your creativity sucks, don't give up on it, but don't necessarily, how do I want to say this? Don't get discouraged, but make sure you try to improve your creativity. Do some research, do some reading, watch podcasts, listen to podcasts, do whatever you can to kind of like open your mind to different possibilities, because things you think that you're doing correctly may not translate well. And then you see somebody else do them and you're like, oh, that's crazy. Like, I never thought of doing it that way. Or like you encounter a problem and instead of like, I don't want to say throwing a hissy fit, but instead of like just shutting your characters down or your, like I always think of, you could have made our fight with Thaddeus absolutely a hell, like a living nightmare.
Yeah.
But the fact that we used teamwork and obliterated him. And you were like, I'm going to let this happen because this is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Right now. I was like sitting there and we were like, that was like a huge confidence booster for the whole group.
You were skull fucking him, I know.
Yes, it was ridiculous. And I was just like sitting there and I'm like, man, it's great to see everybody like pumped up that we wreck this dude. They feel like they are strong characters and like they, you know, which I'm going to segue that into the other thing that I think is the most important thing whenever it comes to D&D. Absolutely, the number one most vital part I will ever say with playing a D&D character. When you do homebrew, it becomes your baby. That is your character. You connect to that character on a different level than if something was partially pre-made or like whatever. You get to connect to that character. And I think connecting to a character like that, understanding his or her backstory, understanding that it is however you create it, whatever history you create, whatever background you create, whatever alignment you create, whatever, you know, whatever you want to do, that is your character, your creation, and you get to play through a game with something. And the nice thing is like, I can't speak for all DMs, but like Noah here allows us to kind of like adjust our characters over time to a point within reason. And stuff like that, that plasticity that you have is just insane whenever it comes to connecting to that character, because it makes it so that you're not like, well, I created a character and I'm, you know, I don't really know if I care for it. It really like, he really lacks in, for example, Ranto, he really lacked in being able to deal with like any type of magical means. And it made him kind of a liability. And then whenever the storyline developed and he was quote unquote abandoned or tricked into staying behind, he began to learn some magic, just enough to get him by. But that truly got him to be developed into his full name, like Ranto Storm Herald. Like the fact that he can call upon lightning and he wields voltage and like all that stuff, that is insane. So the fact that like obviously we're not there yet posting some of the stuff that's going on right now, especially our finale before our break, and some stuff happened with Ranto, and I was like, I do not want to lose this character. And then we had some options come up, and then, you know, without giving it away, shit went down. And like, I'm still very excited that I get to play as Ranto and continue on with that character because I've made such a connection to him. And that is something that is, in my opinion, extremely vital with people that really want to get into D&D. So especially role playing, like that is, it makes role playing phenomenal.
These fuckers made me tear up a couple times in that last one.
Listen, I thought role playing was shit until we started this campaign. Like I hate role playing. Well, I hated role playing for a long time. But the fact that I've connected to Ranto so much has made me embrace role playing so much more and it's awesome. I love it. I can't believe it's ever even crossed my mind that role playing was unnecessary. I used to, that's why I think I was like, oh, like adventure books, like they're hack and slash, like you said, and I get to go through and just kill things. And now I'm like, I could go several sessions without a fight and be completely okay with. Like, it is, role playing is the true, you know, we're playing an adventure. We're not making an action movie. It doesn't have to be constant explosions and swords flying and fucking bullets going off and whatever. You know, it doesn't have to be blood and guts constant. This isn't Hollywood. This is like playing an adventure. And it has been such a fun time with Vreeland so far. So I'm excited for everything coming up soon. I hope everybody else is as well. But sorry, I kind of got off.
You're
well, I was still on topic, but I kind of ranted for a little bit. So yeah. Continue.
That's pretty much all of my pros. All in all, freedom. Mm-hmm. Do your own thing. You're not fixed to a point. Do what you want.
Another thing is like I said, well, I guess I kind of mentioned that with all the sources, it's once you get into it, it's not as hard as what you think it is. I mean, it's just, what would you describe? Tedious, I would say.
Probably.
Yeah, probably like tedious, just like it's a lot of preparation on your end, but very much worth it in the end.
Yeah.
Very much.
I have a couple cons, though.
Mm-hmm.
Not major to me. Could be major to other people. You do have to create and think through a lot of scenarios that might / will not happen to try and prevent holes or game-breaking flaws or fixing an adventure or fixing a monster. You will have to think of so many scenarios that will most likely not happen the way that you think.
It's extremely hard unless you're like a prodigy.
Yes.
Like freaking, well, I was going to say Shane, Matt Mercer.
Yeah.
Like any of them, they encounter a situation, you know, they can work their way through it. But like sometimes it's hard. I mean, like I'm usually that way too. And you're usually that way pretty well, as you know. But I think the biggest thing that a lot of people have to worry about with Homebrew is creating holes in your own story rather than adventure books doing it for you. Like there's sometimes you can work yourself like into a corner and then you're like, oh, like nothing makes sense. I almost did it with that one shot. That last one shot we did, I was like sitting there and you guys killed a couple people and you collected the crystals like from the lich and stuff. And then I was like, oh no, this isn't lining up with what I said. I miscounted and like I created too many problems and now I'm like, fuck. But I didn't panic and I just like worked through it, but it was definitely stressful. So I definitely agree with you on that one. That is.
You have to accept that the players will go anywhere in your world. You kind of just have to let them go, really.
Yeah.
Unless you want to railroad them a little bit to some extent. But all in all, they choose where they want to go. It's their story. It's their adventure. You're pretty much God.
And then also, like, another thing, I'm just thinking of this because of experience with it. Sometimes you may have to railroad people.
Yes.
If you play with problem people, I mean, obviously I would get out of that situation as quickly as possible, just for your own sanity. But if somebody comes in and they're just like, I do what I want, and they're like, I mean, like, it's the age-old meme. The bard just being like, I'm going to fuck that dragon. I'm going to seduce it. If they're being an asshole about it, and it's like, people are like, hey, we're trying to enjoy this, and you're trying to be a dickhead, like, about it, and you're trying to be funny, and it's not funny. Like, it's not funny, like, at all. So, like, whenever that situation happens, that's where it's sometimes you might have to railroad them. And there's very, very, very few instances where I'm like, yeah, just kill their character off and just tell them to leave. Like, there's been a couple nightmare stories I've heard of people being like, yeah, I had to, like, kill off their character, and then after the whole session was done, I told them not to come back at all. And then we never spoke again. And I'm like, good, because he's a fucking dickhead. Or she's a fucking dickhead. Like, I've heard so much stuff about that where I'm like... And you see it on, like... Was it D&D Shorts? No.
Crit Crab?
What?
Crit Crab?
I don't know. You showed me them, and it's always like, oh, like stories from D&D that are like horror stories from DMs or like whatever.
Crit Crab.
Okay, that must be it. It never shows his face or anything. It's just okay. Yeah, that I remember watching some of those, and I'm like, I've had a couple experiences like that where like it should have happened that way. Like I get it in the past, but it's just, and that's also something too, is you get into a situation like that. I understand it's awkward.
Yeah.
It's awkward to be like, hey, we don't want you back here anymore.
Don't do that shit. See?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's always good to know who you're playing with ahead of time too. That's kind of one of the things that I've learned over time. Like the more you experience, it's almost like, I mean, obviously, you know, I'm into music. So like, it's always like getting into a band. It's like, hey, you know, you want to know who you're playing music with before you like go full-fledged into it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm like, you know, you get into a band and then you're like, oh, I fucking hate these people. It's hard to just be like, yep, nope, I'm out already. So.
Got two more.
Go for it.
Homebrew will be about 5 times more work than actual adventure books. Yes. You have to do everything.
Yeah.
You might have a friend that is willing to help you. Wink.
Wink, wink to both of us.
But all in all, it'll be 5 times more work than an actual adventure book. If you're willing to put in that work it is going to mean so much more to you.
Mm-hmm.
It won't matter how little or how much you do. It'll mean so much more that you put in that amount of work.
Yeah. Just like the character being the player's babies in a homebrew, everything's like the world is your baby.
Yeah.
Like Vreeland's your baby, Ranto's my baby, Frondosa is Krista's baby. Like that's everything. Like, you know what I mean? Everyone has their own thing and they're proud of it, or they should be.
Mm-hmm.
My thing is, if you're not proud of your character, you should be talking to your DM and you should be trying to like figure out what you need to do. And you might need to literally in real life come out of your shell a little bit more. Get a little more personal with it.
Yeah.
That's where it comes in also. A side note is it's nice because obviously you and I help each other out with campaigns and stuff. And I've helped a lot with Vreeland and the storyline. And, you know, you've helped with a lot of my one-shots and everything like that. And also future endeavors. So my thing is another thing that we all have to appreciate is the fact that you and I can have the ability to not metagame. That's massive.
Yeah.
That's massive. The fact that I know everything that's going on, and if somebody, like, not everything I should say, but know mostly what's going on in the storyline, and if somebody's like, hey, I'm going this way, I'm not like, oh, well, Ranto's going to do this. Like, like, I'm not going in that cave. Oh, I'm not going towards that building. Like, you know, you play as your character. And the thing is I think you should look at it as a challenge. Don't be scared of it. A lot of people are scared. Oh, I'm scared my character's going to die. Oh, I'm scared of getting into this conflict. Oh, I'm scared of this, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like...
I'm scared to lose my baby, but still,
yeah,
Jesus.
It's like, hey... If you, I always think of it the same way. If you are going to tiptoe around life in general, you are going to be a very fucking boring person. So, like, take some risks. And the nice thing is, it's D&D. If you die, you die. It sucks, but create a new character, continue to play, enjoy it, whatever. Like, it sucks, but it's not like you're losing a real person. It's not like you're, you know. So... that's one of those things where just have fun with it. If you're not going to take risks in real life, then just fucking take it in a fucking board game or a tabletop game. Like, why not? Go out of your shell. Play a fucking dickhead. Play a evil character. Like, you know, do different things. Experiment. Let yourself run wild.
Lastly,
Yep.
you will have to rewrite a lot on the fly.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
More times than not, you are going to rewrite a lot of shit on the fly.
I feel like it's like Reaper audio. Like every time you open it up, there's a fucking update. You're like, God damn it! It's just every time. Just that's the thing. You open it up and you're just like, fuck, everything changed. Well,
it's not gonna matter if you think it's gonna go this way.
Maybe.
Nine chances out of 10, it's not.
Yeah, that's a big fat maybe. Like. If you're like, hey, like so my biggest thing is I think the first couple times I tried to write actual campaigns, they fell through immediately because I put so much effort. That's why I stick with one-shots. Like, I put so much effort and time and thought into a whole thing, and then it all went down the shitter immediately. And then I was like, I do not want to do this again. Like, I don't want to put this much effort in. Now that I've become more seasoned and, like, all that stuff, like, I would understand and be like, hey, get a basic... All right, boys and girls, remember in high school whenever you had to do outlines for your research projects? Do an outline of your fucking campaign. Don't worry about details. You can get the biggest thing... And I also fuck with Noah about this all the time. Make sure you have names prepared for characters.
Shut the fuck up.
So you're not like, oh, what's his name? Pause. Just so make sure you have like names for characters, maybe some weapons that you would want to have involved. See what kind of like and the crazy thing is that people sit there and there's like, oh my God, there's so much stuff to choose from. And I'm like, well, I mean, obviously, if you're going to be in a forest, pick forest-dwelling creatures and pick a pool of them. It's still like a real world. Like, certain races and classes and stuff. Like, probably not going to find sorcerers in the middle of the woods, but you'll find, like, druids. You'll find woodland creatures, and you wouldn't find, like rock trolls. It's common sense. Like, you're not going to find a mermaid in the middle of or a merfolk in the middle of the fucking forest.
I was going to say desert, but yeah.
Well, yeah, desert. Either way. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Just pick a pool of what you want in your world, and then you choose what you want in encounters. You can do everything on the fly from there. But I think that's a big thing is, like, when you look at prep, it doesn't mean completely write out everything that you think is going to happen. It's just like prepare that way. It's like, oh, you walk in here. Oh, this seems like a good point for like an ambush. Let me pick a few characters here. And while they're doing their thing and they're walking towards this ravine, I can, post a few goblins or like, maybe a few barbarians or, raiders or whatever. Like, I'm trying to think of the name for them, but I can't think of it. Bandits. That's what I was trying to think of. There's different things you can do. You just, like I said, it all comes down to creativity. That's the whole basis for it.
All right. Out of 10. Whoa. Out of 10.
Out of 10?
For homebrew.
It's so hard because my thing is I would say a 10 out of 10 just because there's so many different resources and stuff like that. I would say if you're newer, probably like a 7 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10, roughly. Because it can be a little bit much, but like you can get like source books from Kickstarters, the Wizards Kickstarters, the Wizards source books and stuff like that. I think it very easily, if you put the time and effort into it, it could be a 10 out of 10 circumstance no matter what you're doing. Because it's all up to what you want to play. If it's not 10 out of 10, blame it on your creativity, not homebrew. So that's why it's like it almost has to be a 10 out of 10. So.
I would do an 8 because, yes, there are some things that you have to work through, to put in a lot of work to make it something that you love. But all in all,
it's worth it.
It's worth it.
That's the thing.
Yes.
That's the only reason I wouldn't agree with your 8 out of 10. Like, it's 10 out of 10. If you put all the effort into it and you have a good time and you look at it and go, this wasn't like if all your players loved it and you didn't, whatever, and you're like, it just didn't go the way I wanted it to. Fucking adjust it. Make it a 10 out of 10. Don't leave it at an 8 out of 10. Make your adventure a 10 out of 10. It's your adventure. So I feel like with that creativity and plasticity and the ability to, make it what you want, there's no reason for it to not be a 10 out of 10. The only way it would not be a 10 out of 10 is something out of your control, which is, like we were saying earlier with the, what was it, D&D Crab or whatever?
Crit Crab.
Yeah. Crit Crab? I didn't know what it was called. I couldn't. So with Crit Crab, like, if you have, like, nightmarish players to deal with or whatever, I understand. Like, I don't know. I don't think there's a reason you shouldn't be able to make it a 10 out of 10 for your personal. Because people will be like, well, I didn't really like this about it. Fucking change it.
Good?
I'm good. I mean, I think this was actually one of our better episodes.
Surprisingly.
Maybe that's what we needed was a break. Just calm down for a little bit, and then we were pushing out a lot of videos, a lot of content for you guys, just to prep for this holiday break. And I don't want to say we were getting burnt out, but we were like, we're back at it. We'll get some more stuff prepared for you guys. Fucking plug it in, buddy.
Noah outro.
Thank you all for listening to C&C Talks. If you like that episode and want to hear more, follow and subscribe to keep up to date. We have an Instagram and Facebook at Creatures and Cantrips, and Twitter at Creature Cantrip. If you want your message to be read on the next episode, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Like, share, comment. It'll help us immensely. I hope you all have a wonderful day.